Hello everybody, Phil Snyder, GunClassUtah.com. Hey, today we are going to talk about Utah's new road rage law that went into effect last year. Utah is the first state in the country to enact a road rage law. We're going to discuss a real live road rage incident that occurred in Sandy, Utah back in April, in which a suspect driver attempted to force a woman off of the freeway and into that concrete barrier on that inside lane. After several attempts to escape, she finally managed to get out of that situation. It took a few months, but she had a dash cam recorded the incident, which she gave to the police that led to his arrest. We're going to talk about road rage, what the legal consequences are, and what you can do if you're faced with something like this. We're going to talk about if it's lawful to use a firearm in this situation, and I'll give you some tips on how you can avoid this in the future. So this occurred on 90th South and I-15 on the freeway in Sandy, Utah. The suspect that was alleged to have committed these crimes is Stephen Charles Holladay, age 49. And I'll post a link in the description of the news story from KSL News. So Mr. Holladay was angered as this woman approached him from the rear. She approached him at freeway speeds. Apparently he was lane camping in the number one lane, that inside lane on the freeway. As this woman goes around him to pass him, he gets angry, he catches up to her, he forces his vehicle into her lane several times, leaving her nowhere else to go. And then when that isn't successful, he pulls in front of her on at least two occasions and tries to stop her vehicle on the freeway. This is a very scary situation. I was actually, this occurred to me one time, not to this extreme. I wasn't on the freeway, but I had a man intentionally swerve his vehicle into my lane. And, you know, it's startling and it can be very dangerous. But this woman, bravo, she did a great job. She was able to escape the danger without using any force. Kudos to her. So Utah's definition of road rage, which passed July 2024, means the commission of a criminal offense by an operator or a passenger of a motor vehicle in a response to an incident that occurs or escalates upon a roadway, and the person has the intent to endanger or intimidate an individual and another vehicle. Check your state's laws if you live outside of Utah. This video and the laws that we're going to be quoting is going to be based on Utah Criminal Code, Utah law. I do know a lot of the states have similar laws, but you always want to check and make sure that this is in line with your state's laws. It looks like the Utah Highway Patrol filed 2 charges against this man. Number 1, reckless endangerment, which would normally be a Class A misdemeanor, but it makes it a 3rd-degree felony. And then they also charged him with reckless driving. Reckless driving is normally a Class B misdemeanor, but because of the road rage enhancement, it makes it a Class A misdemeanor. So the definition of reckless driving is when you commit 3 or more traffic offenses within a 3-mile period, or if you speed in excess of 105 miles per hour. One of the things that the road rage enhancement does is if you commit a criminal offense during a road rage incident, it enhances it 1 degree. So basically it makes a Class B misdemeanor a Class A, it makes Class A's a felony, it makes 3rd-degree felonies a 2nd-degree felony, and so on. I think the trooper was way too lenient on Mr. Holladay. I think you should have charged him with aggravated assault with a vehicle, which is a 3rd-degree felony, which would make it a 2nd-degree felony with the prison term if he's convicted on that single charge of 1 to 15 years in prison. The road rage law also allows judges to suspend or revoke driver's licenses. It also allows officers, it makes it mandatory for officers to impound your vehicle if there's an arrest made, and a $400 impound fee to get your car out. The state of Utah is really cracking down on road rage, and the police aren't playing. I see just numerous of these stories, and I can't blame them. As an officer, I'm retired now, but I went on road rage calls, and it takes up a lot of manpower to do these investigations, and they can be very dangerous, and a lot of people don't survive these. But let me ask you a question. Could this woman have been seriously injured or killed when she's going 70 miles an hour down the freeway and she's rammed into a concrete barrier? Could that make that vehicle spin out of control and roll, just as an example? What if this was in the canyons and in the mountain and there's no guardrail and somebody tries to force you off of the road and you've got a 100-foot drop or more down the mountainside? Absolutely yes. I've seen videos of cars hitting these concrete barriers and going airborne and rolling. So Mr. Holladay used his vehicle as a deadly weapon to try to stop her. Utah Title 76-5-103 defines what an aggravated assault is, which is a third-degree felony. It's under the category of forcible felonies, in which you can use deadly force to prevent the commission of one of these forcible felonies. In this case, as it applies, the definition taken from aggravated assault would be any unlawful act that creates a substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death, or an unlawful attempt to cause bodily injury, or a threat accompanied by a show of immediate force. And if you use a dangerous weapon while you're doing that behavior, that is what an aggravated assault is. The state of Utah has made it clear that the use of a vehicle is a dangerous weapon. It's in the statute. They just added that last year. Apparently the legislature wanted to make it clear that a gun is not just a gun is a dangerous weapon or a knife, but they actually included motor vehicles in there. If this woman would have had a gun, could she have used deadly force and either threatened this man with a gun and showed it to him on the freeway, or to actually fire into his vehicle to prevent being rammed into a concrete barrier? I think yes, it's definitely possible. Now, if you do something like this, you're going to get heavily scrutinized by law enforcement, and it's not always going to be the best remedy. But yeah, it is possible. You don't think a police officer would shoot at somebody if they were trying to ram their patrol car into a barrier on the freeway? You bet your ass they would. I would. So we have to look at the legalities of this. So first of all, is it legal to shoot from a vehicle on a highway? Utah Title 76-11-209 addresses this. It is normally unlawful to do, but however, there's an exception for self-defense. So if you are doing that in defense of a person, yourself, or other people, yes, it is lawful to do. The second thing we have to ask is, because we're using a dangerous weapon, we can only do that in defense of persons or defense of other persons only under two circumstances. Number one, to prevent the commission of a forcible felony, or when we have a reasonable fear that our life is in immediate danger of being seriously injured or killed. Now, in this case, it's both. There's those two justifications. There's two defenses if you were to use deadly force in a vehicle like this, because that aggravated assault, as I described, is a forcible felony. And I think that if you talk to her, she would be able to tell you that, yeah, I was in imminent fear of my life. So in this situation, we have grounds to use deadly force. The last condition is, and it's very important, when we're using deadly force, it has to be a reasonable response to what they did. What a reasonable person would do in your shoes, given everything that you knew at the time and how you felt at the time about the situation. A reasonable person would be a juror that's asked to decide your case in a trial if it goes that far. Reasonableness can be subjective based on the individual. What a reasonable police officer would do in a situation like that versus a woman that's not a police officer or a man that's not a police officer is going to be entirely different because they have different training, they have a different life, and so it's just going to depend on that person. That's why I always tell people when you're involved in situations like that, even though Utah has a no duty to retreat, I always advise students in our concealed carry classes to retreat if it's feasible for you to do so. This woman obviously tried to retreat for several miles, and she was eventually successful. But I just think that's a good idea because using deadly force should always be a tool of last resort. It should be something that's necessary to do. And when you try to avoid a situation, when you try to avoid the danger at all costs, and then that fails, and then you're left with no other choice, that makes it a reasonable decision. We hear so many stories of people brandishing guns in their cars on road rage. But would this be a great situation to this be one of those exceptions that would actually be legal for this woman to maybe have a gun and show him the gun on the freeway as she's trying to be rammed into the barrier? Yeah, I think that would be a reasonable response when your life is in immediate danger. However, it could escalate it too. It might de-escalate it, which it probably would, but if this other driver had a gun himself and you show them a gun, they just might decide to fire at you and thinking they're in self-defense. Their emotions are high, and that is something that you need to be prepared for. But the law does allow you to threaten somebody with a gun when your life is in immediate danger or you are in jeopardy of being seriously injured. If you are going to tackle something like this and you find yourself using a gun, it's not going to be for everybody. Let me ask you about your abilities. Have you had any firearms training that would encompass being involved in something like this? Have you had any firearms training of any meaningful detail? Can you shoot with one hand? Have you ever done that in a firearms class? Can you take your right hand and shoot like this? Can you take your support hand and shoot like this? Can you do those things? Do you know basic firearms safety rules? Do you know what the term means, know your target and what is beyond? Now, if you're using a gun on a freeway, you got to be aware of other people that might be in danger of being struck by gunfire. That is a consideration that you need to take. And I once heard a lawyer say that every round that comes out of your gun that's unaccounted for or that hurts somebody else other than your intended target is worth $1 million. And, that sounds about right. Even though you're acting in lawful self-defense in a situation like this, if you shoot an innocent person or you cause an injury or death to somebody else, you're at risk of being criminally charged and you're at risk of being civilly sued. The latter would be the biggest concern for me. So you have to evaluate your training abilities and you have to be able to articulate why you took such drastic measures. And let me tell you a story. When I worked for the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, I was a rookie deputy. I think I had a couple of years on. And we trained on firearm simulators, which is a really good idea. If you can find a simulator, very good value. They don't have any here in Salt Lake that I'm aware of, but when I go to St. George, they got a simulator down there. And the guy charges like $40 for 30 minutes on the simulator, which is great. It's such a value to do. But it puts you in real life situations, at least as real life as we can get. and you fire. It's like shoot, don't shoot scenarios and things like that. And I think that that should be part of any firearms concealed carry course, in addition to range time on the range, but also going through the simulator. At the police department, we qualified on our handguns, and we practiced and qualified every quarter. Every quarter we would go up to the range, we would be scored on our accuracy with our firearms, everything was timed, and we also did a simulator once a year. In this particular scenario, I had a hostage situation. This man was using this woman as cover, and he had a knife held up to her throat. And I think he was robbing a bank or something, and he was trying to leave. But anyway, he had this knife up to her throat. He was trying to get away. He was threatening to slit her throat. And I had the gun leveled up. I had the gun leveled up at him, and I decided to take a headshot. And I shot him just right between the eyes. And he immediately dropped, and the woman was not harmed, and the situation was over. Now, I was asked by the instructor that was doing my simulator why I did that. He said, you could have easily shot her when you did that. You created a risk of her being injured. Why did you take such a shot like that? And I said, well, according to my training that y'all gave us, you told us if we make a headshot in what we call the T-box, which is, the eyebrows, and then it comes down here under the nose, that is a shot that you would take under extreme circumstances when you need to sever the spinal cord, and immediately that person is immediately neutralized. And so I knew upon that training, if I could take a shot like that, that he would not be able to cut her throat with the knife due to that fatal shot being made. And I felt capable of my abilities. I was an above average shooter in the police department. And so he just told me, well, that's good. I liked how you articulated that, and I got an A, okay? I mean, because I knew of my abilities that I could do that, and it was a legal thing to do, and it was in line with my training that I had received. So you have to have training to do this. You can't just go to a concealed carry class and classroom only and take a 4-hour class and think that you're good. When I'm talking about doing something like this, if the situation presents itself, you need to be prepared to do that. Let's just go through some tips so you could avoid this and how to handle this in the future if it happens to you. First of all, always carry your gun wherever you go. That firearm is going to save your life someday if you have it with you. If you don't have it with you and you don't know how to use it, then it's really not going to do you any good. Part of our Utah concealed firearms courses is we have a pistol course, and we have memberships where these students, when they initially qualify, they can come every quarter and they can shoot for a very reasonable price. Everything's timed. We practice safe handling. We go over the safety rules, and it just keeps those skills sharp, because firearms training and gun safety is a perishable skill. And if you don't train, then you're going to lose those skills. I had a woman that was a very good student. She was terrified of guns. She went through a basic pistol course with me. She made dramatic improvements. She was one of my best shooters. But then I ran into her about 1.5 years later, and I asked her if she'd done any practice and how she was doing. And she felt horrible, because she says she felt like she just forgot everything that she learned. And so that's why we offer that to students, to let you stay sharp on your skills. But first of all, if you're involved in a road rage incident, the first thing you want to do is you want to get 911 on the phone if you can't get out of that situation. If you have a dash cam, activate it. Dash cams are invaluable evidence to law enforcement, judges, and prosecutors. They love dash cam. It's what we call direct evidence, which is the strongest evidence. It's similar to eyewitness testimony of things that happen. Whatever you do, don't engage the road rage person. Don't provoke them. If they get angry and flip you the bird or shake their fist at you, things like that, just drive on. The road rage suspect wants to intimidate you. They want to scare you. And if you just look scared and you just, drive away and get out of that situation, that is going to be a lot to de-escalate that. That is going to be very effective at de-escalating a situation like that. In this case, this woman was on the freeway when he was trying to ram her off. I would have, if I could have, I would have hit the brakes and hopefully that he would go by, and then I would try to make some lane changes and get off the freeway. Braking, or maybe speeding up and try to get ahead and, get out of the way and get out of that situation. It's just a good idea. Even though Utah is a no duty to retreat state, I mentioned the advantages of doing that. If you're cornered and you can't avoid the situation, you got a decision to make, what you're going to have to do to save your life. Always report bad drivers to the police. I'm not talking about these minor traffic offenses. I'm talking about when they're doing stuff like this. They're trying to ram you off the road. They're pulling in front of you and they're hitting their brakes, trying to stop you on the freeway. If they brandish a gun, things like that, those things should be reported. Remember, if you're found to be provoking a situation or you're committing crimes yourself in a road rage, except for traffic violations, you're going to lose your presumption of reasonableness under the statute. And this may result in criminal charges being filed against you yourself. Don't worry about committing a traffic violation which starts a road rage. If you inadvertently maybe cut somebody off, they were at a blind spot, or you're speeding, or you do an unsafe lane change, things like that, those are not going to put you in jeopardy of having any problems with law enforcement. Traffic violations are okay. It's when you go beyond that and it gets into criminal behavior like reckless driving and pointing guns at people when you're not justified and things like that. That is when you have the risk. If that is all you did was a traffic violation that started this, that is not viewed as provoking, and it's going to be okay. Just take a deep breath like this if you're involved. Just try to stay calm. Just try to get out of that situation without escalating it. As I said earlier, the police aren't playing when it comes to road rage. And you can easily become a convicted felon based on this road rage law and lose your gun rights if that happens. If you are a convicted felon, you will lose your right to own or possess a handgun. You will also lose your right, and you won't have your firearm permit anymore. The Utah Highway Patrol, I don't know why, but they should have charged this man with aggravated assault because it totally fits. In the officer's report, he mentioned that this guy recklessly endangered her life. Why not go with an aggravated assault? I'm guessing he probably didn't have a lot of experience. He was probably new, probably wasn't aware of the recent changes to the law that makes assaulting somebody with a vehicle a forcible felony. But I'm glad that they caught up and they charged him with something. If you're involved in a situation like this and the police come out and talk to you, they're going to have a body camera. Most likely there's going to be a body camera on, it's going to be activated, and they're going to record everything you say and everything you do and what you look like at the time. You want to remain calm, and you want to get a lawyer immediately. And you want to wait till that lawyer gets there with you before you answer any questions. They're going to ask you for your driver's license. Go ahead and give them that. You're required by law to provide your name, your address, and a date of birth. And if they want details, that's going to be up to you if you decide to talk or not. You have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, and to have a lawyer with you during questioning. So if you just simply said, "Officer, I'd like to have my lawyer present with me. Could I give him a call and have them come out before I talk?" The officer says, "Do you have an attorney?" And you don't. Just, you can tell them no, you don't have one, but you'd like to find one before you give any detail. If there is evidence that's laying around that the police may have overlooked, I would definitely, even if a lawyer doesn't come out, you want to point out evidence that would help acquit you of the crime. And if you even said this was a self-defense matter, I don't know if that's really going to incriminate you much. But you definitely want to have a lawyer. Now, they offer concealed carry insurance. That's very popular. A lot of people paying that, probably about $60 a month, which is quite a bit of money. But you got to read the fine print when it comes to concealed carry insurance, because a lot of them will throw you under the bus if you are found to be not justified, or if you're convicted, or if you are criminally negligent or reckless or something like that. They can weasel out of that. So the best concealed carry insurance is good training. Good training consists of not only knowing what the laws are of self-defense, when it's appropriate to use the gun, but also your skills of using the gun. When you have really good skills and you have really good understanding of the laws, then you're in your best position to not have any criminal consequences. You are going to be covered if you do have insurance, because you are going to be well trained and you're going to make a good decision. Please comment and like the video if you enjoyed it. If you found it useful, please show me that by likes, and please comment if it helps you. If you've had any road rage situations that have occurred to you, if you have any personal stories, and you have any police reports, you have any body cam or any dash cam videos of incidents that you'd like to review for free, please forward it to me and let me take a look at it. Thanks for watching.